Waiting for the Facebook. There it is. We are live. All right, ladies and gents, welcome to the Edge Live Q&A. I'm Kylan, front-end developer for Edge Wallet, and joined with me is William Swanson, our chief architect. How's it going, William?
Hi, good to see you again.
Yeah, there's all sorts of stuff for the news, but I suppose before we get to the news, we should discuss our recent release, right? We made it was a relatively, well, I don't know if I call it a big release, but an important release, specifically related to Bitcoin Cash.
Well, so it wasn't actually a big release. That was kind of the point.
That's what I was thinking.
Right. It was actually supposed to be like 2 days after the split happened. We were like, we're just going to get this little teeny tiny release out. And it ended up taking a lot longer than we thought because it was more complicated. But what we did is we added support for, so let's back up a little bit.
Go ahead.
There's a currency called Bitcoin Cash, which recently had a split happen, a contentious split within the community. And it resulted in two coins, Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin SV. So what this release did is it added support for Bitcoin SV. And it added replay protection. So the way the split happened, because it was contentious, if you did a transaction on one network, it would actually go on the other network. So if I send you some BCH, some Bitcoin Cash, I would actually also send you Bitcoin SV for no good reason.
Ooh, goody for me, right?
Yeah, but most people wouldn't want to spend both coins. If I'm paying for something that's $5, I don't want to send $6 because I got the other currency mixed in there.
Right, and as a wallet company, as a wallet team, you don't want your users accidentally sending out more than what they are meaning to send out, right?
Right. So when we had the split feature in there, so when you split your wallet, we'll actually protect the Bitcoin Cash coins from being spent out when you send out SV and vice versa.
Okay, there you go. So, and this is something where I feel like not too many mobile wallets have support for this split yet, at least from what I've seen.
No, very few mobile wallets have support for this. So we're kind of leading the pack in that sense.
Ooh, yeah, well, that's good. So for those of you who have Bitcoin Cash and have not split off your Bitcoin SV yet, you should do so. Maybe a couple weeks ago, you wouldn't have been too inclined to do it, but the prices have changed, haven't they? Did you want to take a look? Last thing I checked yesterday was that Bitcoin SV, Satoshi's Vision, which is Craig Wright's sort of pet project, I guess you could say. At least he's the one associated with it. In the beginning, after the fork, they had it seemed like it was like a 5-to-1 or 3-to-1 ratio. So they were the underdog, and something's been going on because as of yesterday, they were ahead. They were
actually worth more than Bitcoin Cash was for a brief period of time. It's back now the way it was before. But
do you have any idea what's causing that sort of that BCH flippening? Right, that's what we call it. It's the happening, but it's flipping, so it's the flippening.
Right. The guys behind the Bitcoin SV fork, the guys who did that. One of the guys is called Calvin Iyer, and he's a billionaire. And he runs a mining pool, and he's got it's CoinGeek, I think his name is the pool, right?
Right.
And they've mined about 70,000 Bitcoin Cash.
Just over the last,
before the fork, they mined 70,000 Bitcoin Cash or some crazy number like that. And they held on to all of it. And so apparently what they've been doing over this past week is they've been dumping the Bitcoin Cash and buying up Bitcoin SV to pump the price.
Okay.
And you can actually see some of the addresses from the CoinGeek Coinbases, because when they mine a block, you see where the money goes. It goes to them.
Right.
And you can actually see those addresses have all been drained. They've drained about 34,000 Bitcoin in the last 24 hours.
Okay, so if this is something where they're trading their BCH for BSV, that kind of gives you an idea that maybe it's only temporary for the time being.
Right.
So I don't know why they're doing it so quickly. I'm sure they have their reasons. But the idea, of course, is that they can only do that for so long. Maybe they're trying to get as much PR related to it as well.
They might be trying to achieve a flippening scenario where their coin is now worth more and therefore sticks in that position and then destroys Bitcoin Cash. Right. Because their intention and their stated goal has always been to destroy Bitcoin Cash.
Right. It's crazy. I'm talking about contentious. And something like that, when you have a horse in the race, things get dangerous because all of a sudden you start spending money to try to get your horse to win the race. And if it doesn't, then your horse doesn't win and you don't have much money left either, right?
Right. I mean, the Bitcoin white paper has this idea of miners who are selfish and they're trying to make money by mining blocks. It doesn't have this idea of someone who's willing to burn it all to the ground. as an attack. That's not something Bitcoin was designed to withstand. So if we make it through this, whatever happens at the end will be very interesting. What can Bitcoin survive a crazy attack like this?
Yeah, it's. I'm trying to think here. Definitely a bit of a scorched earth policy, and normally you don't see too much of a flippening as this quickly. I think one of the things that might have to, one of the reasons why this sort of flippening might be possible is because the market cap has gone down so much. A lot of currencies, especially the last couple of weeks, have gone down just ridiculous amounts. Bitcoin Cash is one of the ones that's feeling the worst.
Well, the other thing about Bitcoin Cash is you can't freaking trade it right now because all the exchanges have delisted it.
Yeah, and the exchanges don't know who to list either, right? Like SV or Cash, right? Or
Right.
ABC, excuse me.
I mean, it's kind of annoying because within our own wallet, like we have Changelly and Shapeshift as our trading partners, right? They provide our swap services. Well, neither of them support either Bitcoin Cash or Bitcoin SV. So if you wanted to, within Edge, change your Bitcoin SV into BCH or vice versa, you can't do it right now because they haven't listed it. And it's true across the board. So it's not hard to manipulate a market when there's very few places that even have the coin.
Yeah, without a doubt. So there was some more news related to Bitcoin Cash as well, right? There's some lawsuits flying around. Is this the one that is against Roger Ver? Is that the one? Because there's multiple, I think.
Yeah. So United Corp launches a lawsuit against Bitmain, Bitcoin.com, Roger Ver, and Kraken for hijacking Bitcoin Cash.
For hijacking Bitcoin Cash. What does that even mean? Does it have any details?
So it sounds, when you read the article, the gist of their complaint is that after the split happened, the contentious split, the Bitcoin Cash side put in a checkpoint saying, we're going to consider everything after this block to be our chain, and we don't care about the consensus rules necessarily because that was the last block that was mined, and so we think that that's valid. I don't know if that makes sense. Normally in Bitcoin, you go with the longest chain.
Right.
Whoever has the most proof of work.
Okay.
But they said, look, we're going to take the block right after the split, and we're going to say that that's part of our chain regardless of proof of work.
Right.
So that way, there will always be that block included in the chain. It won't accept it as valid if that block's not in the chain.
That's ABC that did that side.
ABC, yeah.
Okay.
And Satoshi himself has done that. Every release that Satoshi did included a checkpoint.
Oh, okay.
He'd checkpoint every 100,000 blocks or something.
So you're saying there's kind of a consensus that, hey, this is a valid block or something like that.
Right, because everyone's validated this block. Everyone's seen that it's legit, and it had a lot of proof of work at the time. So if someone's got another block that has more proof of work, the only way that could have happened is if they were trying to attack the network.
So does that mean it's kind of like hard-coded in then?
Yeah, it's kind of hard-coded in.
Yeah.
Like this is the path that it took, and so we're going to say that this is the path that we're going to stick with.
Are there any major risks to that, to including something like that?
No, I don't think that the hard-coded checkpoints like that are risky. And the reason is, like I said, if someone were to rewrite history going back 30 blocks, 50 blocks, 100 blocks, trying to go past that point backwards, the only times we've ever seen that happen is when there's an explicit reorg attack.
Right.
Like there was the thing where Bitcoin, was it Bitcoin Gold? Someone went back, they deposited a bunch of money on the exchange, and then they bought a bunch of mining power, and they used that to rewrite history, so they undeposited their money and stole it back from the exchange after cashing out something else.
Yeah.
So that was a very good way. Well, not to say good. Morally, it's bad, but technically, it's effective way to steal millions of dollars. So when you put a hard-coded checkpoint in like that, you're saying, no, we're not going to allow you to do that, and pull that kind of.
But
scam.
is it weird? I mean, so your chain is saying that, like SV's probably looking at that block and saying, no, we think it's invalid, or
right? Well, they wouldn't accept that block anyway because it doesn't compatible with their rules.
Okay. Some interesting stuff. Hash wars, right?
Yeah. So anyway, the lawsuit's saying, you can't put that checkpoint in. By putting that checkpoint in, you've caused us damages.
Okay, that's interesting. Do you think they have any standing in court then?
I don't know. But Chris Pasha, one of the developers for Open Bazaar, points out, if they've got damages because you put a checkpoint in, the only way they could have damages is if they were actually trying to do a reorg mine in the background.
Oh, okay.
Right? So this very fact that there's this lawsuit's almost proof or evidence that they were in fact trying to reorg the chain and double spend.
You're saying the plaintiff was?
Yeah.
Or so it's an admission of guilt in a way.
Almost.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like a clean admission, right? It's just kind of like, well, what are you trying to say here?
Yeah.
Read between the lines. I don't know. This just keeps getting more and more interesting.
It's always kind of interesting too when someone like when they name specific people or organizations, because I get it, you know, maybe some currencies are more centralized than others, but it's still like in general, it's not like one person's in control. So the idea of naming someone as what would you call it, as a defendant or the person,
who's the defendant here?
Yeah, exactly right.
I mean, for a lot of currencies though, there is a clear defendant, right? Ripple Labs is the defendant,
right?
If they did something you didn't like,
right?
What other currencies?
Block one with EOS maybe or something like that.
Right. I mean, but
it's stretched for some of them, but a lot of times there is like kind of.
Vitalik's kind of a figurehead for Ethereum.
Yeah, a figurehead. That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
You know, so I don't know how much power he actually has, but there's lots of coins where you can point to a centralized, like, yeah, these guys are in charge of this currency.
Yeah.
But I feel like the Bitcoins don't have that as much.
The Bitcoins, it's like a family now. It's a family of forks. It is interesting. Like a bunch of the exchanges have gotten rid of like Bitcoin Private, Bitcoin Diamond, Bitcoin Gold. People were making such a big deal at the time when those forks were happening because they were hoping to, you know, get some money out of it. Like, you know, Bitcoin Cash actually kind of gave them some money for their for the split, and then now they're all getting delisted. You know, because they were always kind of like shit coins. Well,
back in 2015, the scam that you would do to make some money quick was make a shit coin, copy Bitcoin,
right, and
then change a few parameters and call it your own coin.
Yeah,
that was big in 2015. Everyone realized that was dumb, and they stopped investing in those.
And then
it's no longer
in 2017, they just did ICOs.
2017 was ICOs, and I feel like 2018 was the year of the split.
Of the fork. Okay.
Yeah.
So okay. Yeah, a shitcoin fork, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll move on. We were talking about Bitcoin Cash here a lot, and like I said, they have taken a bit of a beating price-wise. I mean, everyone really has taken a beating, but there was one specific currency that really caught my mind, and that was EOS. So I was reading an article that was probably, I think, earlier this week, maybe Monday or so. I saw it on Reddit, and they were talking about block producers. And block producers are similar, but not quite, how would I say it?
They're like miners.
They're kind of like miners, but there are some significant differences, right? I mean, you and I, we did a podcast on EOS. So I guess for the most part, we can kind of metaphorically talk about them as if they're kind of like miners. But block producers, there's maybe like 100 of them, and they each make a little bit of EOS for helping to kind of process transactions on the EOS blockchain. I don't even know if it's considered blockchain, but nevertheless, so there's like 21 that are ones that are actually getting stuff done, and they make more money than the rest of the candidates do, right? And they get voted. That's how they get into that top 21 spot. Now, EOS has an inflation rate of 5% per year. And I was looking at it, I didn't realize this, but only 1% of that goes to block producers.
Really?
So
where's the other 4% go?
It goes into their little like slush fund for promoting and like funding projects for EOS.
Wait, they had this huge $1 billion ICO. They got all the money in the world, and then they need another 4%.
And they need more, right? And that's what I was like. First of all, I don't like these slush funds. Second of all, for the block producers to get so little, it was just crazy because there must have been a lot of mentality of, oh, the miners are making so much, so we got to make sure our block producers can't just make tons of money. But I saw someone who was doing a survey and kind of doing some calculations roughly on what it takes for. Okay, because they get a certain amount of EOS for their work, and obviously EOS has a price. So there was kind of he was asking the block producers, there's like 100 of them or so, and most of them responded, okay, well, how much do you need the price of EOS to be in order to stay financially viable? And at the time, the price was at like, $3.50, $4. And essentially people were saying, yeah, around $4 is like kind of like the cutoff. As it goes under 4, then people are like, kind of operating at a loss. And then, of course, now I think the price is like down to $2 or less. So essentially you have this situation.
It's $1.75.
Yeah, $1.75. So EOS block producers have to be feeling the heat there, to put it lightly. But yeah, so it was just this weird situation because they can switch that ratio. There's different things they can do to help the block producers make more money. And obviously a lot of it has to do with A lot of it is still dependent on price, but like instead of 1%, you can change it to 2% that goes to block producers. But it's just so weird because now all of a sudden they have this situation where they have to manually kind of like, I'm not going to say manually, but they have to reach a decision. Someone has to reach a decision on what that percentage should be just to keep them financially viable. And then, of course, they're concerned, too, that when the price goes up, well, then the block producer will be making so much money. I'm just sitting here thinking, like, oh, who cares? If they're securing your network, if they're processing the transactions, let them make money during boom times, because when the price is down like it is right now, they'll need some reserves. Otherwise, they could end up in a bad situation where block producers aren't able to stay viable. A bunch of them won't stick around, maybe. As you get less candidates for block production, then there's a chance you could get people who are just low-quality block producers who are making mistakes, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an interesting situation.
Well, isn't that the idea with proof-of-work coins, that as the price goes down, people decide to bow out? That lowers the difficulty and automatically makes the people left profitable.
That's what I was saying. And
it's like a self-correcting system.
Yeah, I liked the idea of delegated proof of stake last year when we were like doing an analysis of it before it had launched. But now you're just seeing kind of like the devil's in the details, really. There's just a lot of things where it's just a little wonky. And some of the, not conflict of interest, but the incentives are not quite as clear-cut as they are with proof-of-work mining, right?
Right. Because you got to become part of this club, become this candidate, convince people you're awesome.
Yeah, so it does beg the question. So EOS is delegated proof of stake, a lot of democratic kind of stuff. But it's almost like, isn't that part of the problem? Like delegated proof of stake, all of a sudden you have representatives that you're voting for. Like just think about our like government system. Like, does it work well or not? No, it definitely does not. And I think you're almost seeing some of the same sorts of issues. I think they even had a little bit of a scandal because one of the block producers had openly said that they were willing to do some sort of deal for people who vote for them, which is essentially kind of considered a bribe.
Yeah.
So I think that was one of the things that actually caused the price to start going down. That and about a million other things.
So what do you think about blockchain governance then? Because there's all these coins who come out like Decred or EOS, and they always say, we have this governance system baked in where we can decide our fate. And then you have coins like Bitcoins where it's just war, and that's how you decide the fate. It's just war.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, as bad as it sounds, sometimes the war thing is a little more clear cut. I know people say, oh, well, you have these big mining companies and, they have too much power. But it's like, okay, but they also have a lot of incentive to make sure that the chain keeps on staying valuable too, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's definitely interesting. It's an experiment in governance, kind of like you said. Now we're getting a more clear picture of like a comparison between the different types.
Right. So you've got centralized governance like Ripple, where it's just Ripple Labs controls everything.
Yeah.
You've got crazy delegated governance, which you have on coins like EOS and Decred, and then you have just free for all, mad dash to be the king of the hill.
Yeah, so it
kind of Hunger Games-ish, if you've watched Hunger Games, right?
Right.
The last man standing. Right.
So there are, it's not all fun and games either for cryptocurrency mining for like proof of work as well. Because I was thinking, just thinking about, okay, price drops cause issues for EOS with delegated proof of stake. Proof of work, it causes some major issues too. If you see something, let's say, for example, a coin loses 60% of its value, 70% of its value in a couple of weeks or so, then all of a sudden you're going to get a lot fewer miners that are mining it. More or less proportionally, the hash power will fall, right? And if you lose hash power, then all of a sudden your blocks are going to be more, more spaced out.
Right, the 10 minutes isn't 10 minutes anymore.
Right, and you might think to yourself, okay, well, it'll readjust. It's supposed to readjust every 2 weeks. Well, okay, yeah, that's what it eventually is supposed to readjust. But that 2 weeks, depending on certain things, now you're going through the. It's not 2 weeks based on time. It's 2 weeks based
on blocks, which can be longer, so it takes more than 2 weeks.
Right. So you're like, oh, it'll readjust in a couple of weeks. All of a sudden, you're thinking, no, now it's more like 4 or 5 weeks. So I think proof of work still works pretty well, but there are times when the price changes drastically enough that it could almost kill a currency.
So that's actually a problem for coins with the original algorithm like Bitcoin, BTC. one of the things that did come out of the 2015 altcoin boom was a lot of these coins actually figured out better difficulty adjustment algorithms that would refix faster so that this wouldn't happen.
Yeah, it's and that's something they've definitely optimized, I guess.
And so Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin SV do have that. So this would actually be an interesting scenario where Bitcoin Cash, if it did flippening, could destroy Bitcoin because it takes so long for Bitcoin to readjust and have really slow blocks.
Right.
But the other way around, it doesn't actually happen because Bitcoin Cash would adjust quickly.
Yeah.
So that actually becomes sort of a competitive advantage in these wars too. It's like, what are all these scenarios?
It definitely can, but there's trade-offs because Bitcoin doesn't see as much of a price fluctuation, I think, because it has a higher market cap as well, right?
So it
is protected by being so big. Coin. Yeah, it is kind of is, exactly.
Everybody uses it everywhere for everything because it's everywhere.
Yeah. So I've seen a lot of coins now that they either have faster blocks or a lot of them, like you said, difficulty adjustments that happen pretty quickly. I'm seeing some that happen within a half hour even. I know Monero has one that is constantly changing. They have some algorithm so it's constantly changing, which I kind of like. I kind of like seeing something that can adapt quickly to the environment, right? All right, what else we got? I feel like we're already 20 minutes into it here. Oh, so one question people were asking me about Edge Wallet was, so you have the ability to tag a transaction. Let's say someone sends you something or you send somebody something, so you have a transaction, and you can tag that transaction as one of your contacts, right? Someone from your phone. That way you can see, I sent $20 to my buddy Nick or whatever. And I was kind of thinking to myself, okay, well, what would happen? Is it possible to do something where we could have, if we want to send a transaction, we could have addresses saved to a specific contact? Does that make sense?
I think I get what you're saying. So, like, if I've scanned Nick's barcode and I want to pay him again.
Again, correct.
Right. Well, I mean, you can do it. It's super hacky. But what you could do is take that transaction, go on a block explorer, figure out which was his output, and send back to that same address, which is kind of sketchy. But
right. And
it seems like, could the app do that?
Yeah. I think that I was thinking writing the code for it, I think, would not be an issue at all, right?
I mean, we have data storage. We have everything we need to do it. One of the problems with that idea specifically is a lot of these places, once you've sent money to an address, that address is no longer being looked at. And if you sent money again, they wouldn't receive it.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking, because the first thing I was thinking was, okay, well, let's say somebody's on Coinbase, and they send me their Coinbase address. But I notice my Coinbase address changes every time.
It's like if I send to that old address in a year, will Coinbase
what
recognize
happens?
it?
And I don't have a clear answer for that. I don't know if anyone's ever actually tried it. I was thinking of trying it. Just send like $1 to one of the old addresses. But it's really hard to know what's going on the back end with the private keys. So it's just kind of
that's kind of why it's risky to do that, because you don't never know if that address is still valid or not.
Yeah, it kind of makes me wonder why. Why did they change the address? But probably so that you can tag it manually, I guess.
It's probably also for security within their system, so they don't have addresses just accumulating millions of dollars or whatever.
Yeah. Okay, so they don't want to put everything in one place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Airbits actually has a feature that we never ported over to Edge that we actually should get around to doing. I'd like to do that. Is when you send money to something, when you receive money into Airbits and you tag it, if you receive money again to that same address, we'll actually copy over the tag from the last time you received it.
Say that again.
So say I show you my barcode,
right,
and you send me some money, and I tag it as Kylan,
right.
If you send to that same address, Airbits would actually re-tag it as Kylan.
Oh, okay.
Because we knew.
So when you receive.
Yeah, because you tagged it from Kylan once, so if it's coming back to that same address, it must have been you.
Oh, for that address. And that must be, okay. So that's like for non-account, like non-Ethereum ones that change the address every transaction.
So we should probably port that feature over into Edge, and then that would be more automatic. So once you receive payroll once, you tag it as Edge payroll, and then the next time Edge sends you payroll, it's automatically tagged.
Yeah, it is cool seeing that as a usability or user experience sort of thing. Seeing information get filled in automatically is always nice, especially if there's like a little picture that goes with it, right?
Well, the other thing too we should do is when you shapeshift, we know that the address that we gave to Shapeshift is a receiving address, so we can tag that so that when the money comes in, it's automatically tagged. You don't have to type in what it was from.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of improvement we could make in that area of our app.
Yeah.
But
lots of improvement.
there's so much to do, right?
Only so many coders. All right, we have a question here from, let's see here, Lou Palumbo. I hope I pronounced that right, Lou. It says, how does Edge make a profit? I think he's asking, what are our revenue streams?
Right. What are our revenue streams? It's like profits. Well, in this market? No. So our revenue streams are several. The biggest one that we're focused on is in-app purchases. So every time you use Shapeshift, every time you use Changely, or what are the dollar one? What's that?
Liberty X? No.
Liberty X is coming. What was in
Dollar one.
Airbits?
Oh,
Simplex. Yeah. Every time you use any of these services, we take a small cut of the fee. So if we have enough people using our wallet and doing trades on a daily basis, there's revenue. That would be enough to make us profitable.
There you go.
So that's good. We also sell licenses to our software. So if third parties decide to use Edge to log into their app, there's a licensing fee that we take there.
That's the SDK?
The SDK, right?
Right.
So if you're building something using Edge technology, you want to have a wallet integrated into your product, but you don't want to necessarily build a whole wallet from scratch.
Right.
We can sell you those bits.
Yeah, and then they have do we still do white labels at all?
So that would be another example of that, where some
Okay.
people would actually take Airbits, the whole app Airbits, and then they would rebrand it as their own application and put it in the store as theirs. And
Right.
then we would charge them for that, or they would do a revenue split with us for their
Right.
customers.
Okay.
So
And we also, for lesser known, well, I guess I don't know if this counts as much, but for lesser known coins that want to get listed or integrated into our app, we also charge a fee for that.
Right.
It depends on the coin. But if it's a big coin that we're going to do anyway, then obviously we won't charge someone.
Right.
But if
I
it's
think
unknown.
We talked about it recently. I think one of our goals was to have the top 10 eventually.
I think we do have the top 10 now. Aren't we?
Well,
We've got to be pretty close.
So let me go check CoinCap because it's all shuffled
Yeah, that's what I
around.
noticed. It all changed the last couple weeks, man.
We don't have EOS.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's by this time. Well, EOS is coming down the pipeline. I'm working on it. Some other developers are working on it. So that one should be soon. I can't give a timeline, but soon.
We don't have Tether.
Well, we have USDT, the ERC20 version.
We do have the ERC20 version of it.
Kind of counts.
Do we have Stellar, or is that coming?
I think that one we're preparing. Wait, Stellar?
Stellar.
We do have it.
We do?
Yeah.
Was it in our last release, or is it coming up in a release? I don't know.
I don't remember. No, I think we already have it.
So yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there on the top 10s, and then everything below the top.
then it'll just change again. You know, they'll all fall out, and it'll be a new 9 in Bitcoin, and then we'll have to.
I mean, we can ignore some of the like Tron is now in the top 10 today, but I don't think that's going to stick around too much longer. Cardano used to be in the top 10. It's not anymore.
I don't know what happened to Cardano. Everyone was making a huge deal about it, and then it just, I guess their blockchain's already live, and it's just, I think it's still early, maybe.
I don't know.
That's a very diplomatic answer, William.
I mean, Cardano, I went to their website. I tried to figure out what they were doing, what was cool about their thing. And they're like, talk about their cool proof of stake system.
Ouroboros.
Everybody's got a proof of stake system these days, so that's not that interesting. And then what does the blockchain do? I don't know.
Yeah. I'm not seeing many tokens on it either. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah. No, we already have Stellar. That's what I thought. Okay. Well, I think we're running over a little bit here. Me and William just always have so much fun. So much to say.
It's just fun just babbling about crypto stuff.
Highly opinionated. You know what I mean? On other podcasts, maybe people are more diplomatic, but we try to tell it like it is here. All right, so we are live every Friday. That means if you have questions or comments, you've seen we've interacted a little bit with some of our audience today. But yeah, if you have questions or comments, send them our way either when we're live, or we can hit us up on Twitter or on Facebook as well. Until then, you are free to check out Edge Wallet, which is available on iOS and Android. I think we're going to have another release coming with, well, am I allowed to give timelines? Pretty soon, before the end of the year, right?
that's the idea, is to have a before the end of the year release.
It depends on Apple. See, if we submit stuff in December, Apple, a lot of their employees, they're home, drinking their eggnog with their family, celebrating. So not too many releases get approved, at least on Apple, on iOS, during December. So if it's a while before, no, it won't be a while. But if it is, blame Apple. All right. See you guys next Friday.